What's up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of Manufacturing Transformed. I got to tell you, I love stories of people with just unbridled grit, determination to be entrepreneurial, even if it's possibly accidental, but then just going for it and pushing hard and hard. And this episode with Dan Fifer of Lane4 Precision, which stick to the very end where he talks about why he called it Lane4. I just absolutely love that reason. This is such a cool story. He had not even really ever stepped foot into a machine shop before he started his own. He was a design engineer for medical devices for years and decided that he wanted to do something for himself, stop working for others and making a lot of money for venture capitalists, and accidentally sort of started a machine shop. So specializing in Swiss turning, and ProShop was one of the very first things that he purchased. And it's been a real incredible journey for him. Not really a transformation because there was no before state. There was only the, starting it with ProShop state. So what he said, which I find particularly interesting, is that since he didn't ever step foot in a shop prior to getting ProShop, he didn't really know how a shop was supposed to run. And ProShop really provided the architecture for how he decided to run his business. So that is super cool. I love that point. So without further ado, let's go listen to the episode and enjoy this one with Dan. Well, good morning, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. You and I go quite a ways back. I was just looking. I think it was February of 2018 is when we, at least when you signed up. We probably met at the latter part of 2017, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I didn't incorporate till the end of 2017. So apparently ProShop was one of the first things I did as a new shop. So, yeah.
Well, that's been the story a few times, and I think it's a smart one, of course, but that's now going on, what, 7 to 8 years now?
Yeah, they're dog years. So that's
that's right.
40 something actually, feels like.
Yeah. We were saying just before we hit record, we're about the same age. We both have our reading glasses here ready.
Right.
We both got salt in our beard, and in some ways, both a little bit accidental entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's tell your story of starting Lane4, maybe even a little bit before that, what you did, why you decided that starting a shop was the thing you wanted to do.
Yeah, interestingly, starting a shop was never something I decided to do. It just it did happen. So yeah, rewinding a little bit, my training is actually in engineering. I was a design engineer in the medical device arena for 20 years or so. I'd done a handful of startups. Really had a passion for innovation and had done a handful of startups, and I don't know to word it carefully. I became somewhat disenchanted with the model. I was working really hard for venture capitalists to make a lot of money for them. And I was just like, I'm not going to work that hard for somebody else again. So I'm going to venture out on my own and maybe do some design consulting. And so I rented out a little warehouse. I started shopping for some machines, and I wanted to have a really capable machine shop so that I wasn't beholden to shops that are really slow because especially for product development, R&D, time is everything. So you're moving really fast. And so I wanted to have a really highly capable machine shop. And my experience was with just manual machines, mill and a lathe. And I was proud of what I could do as an engineer, but the conflict between the standing conflict and almost Dilbert-like jokes between engineers and machinists and things. So I was one of the cursed ones. I was an engineer for 20 plus years, designing things, and I had a package of parts. And so I went to some shops to say, hey, I want to get a lathe that can cut these kinds of parts. And I had some drawings for them. And so they look at the parts like, you need a screw machine. I'm like, oh, okay. I went to another one. Second one said, you need a screw machine. And I was like, well, what is that? And how much does it cost? So I looked at it, and it was a lot, but I had sold my house and had a little bit of money I was sitting on to launch the shop. And so my first big purchase was a Citizen Swiss screw machine, an L20. And I remember meeting with them and taking my time. I mean, I thought about it carefully, but I was advised on a number of occasions to not do that. So I remember meeting with somebody who was running some of those machines, like, well, are you familiar with G-code? And I'm like, no, never seen a line of G-code. And he's like, well, this is a tough place to start, probably. This is not the beginner's arena. So I remember that. His name was Bill. And I remember sending Bill a thank you note after I kind of jumped off and just went for it. And I remember ending the thank you note for your advice and things, but I said nothing ventured, nothing gained. so
Yeah.
so here we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd probably build like 4 or 5 hours of engineering time my first several months. I was still working in a 20% capacity at my last startup
Okay.
for that first year, and then I was all in at the end of it. And what I learned was my colleagues in my network of engineers, once they learned I had that machine and was beginning to learn how to operate it, and I could make parts for them, the whole paradigm just changed. I had a fleet of like 10 engineers on a big project sending me parts, and I had an opportunity to really cut my teeth and just learn how to operate that machine. And so over the course of we started at program 1000 was our first program. So 1001. And I think we're at 2010 right now. So in 7 years,
You just
in a small
increment
sub. So we've done over 1,000 parts on a screw machine. We have a small fleet of them now. We've got 5 as it's kind of grown up. So, but yeah, I got one that was really busy, and then we were making money and it was proficient. I was enjoying the craft side of it, which is always something that I really wanted to excel at, to be good at my skill or my craft and just have a passion for it. And so as we developed a little bit of proficiency, we got another machine, and that just kind of grew it up from there. So yeah, it was totally accidental. So I'm doing I work with R&D engineers. So we're doing a lot of product development, but really all I'm doing now is just machining with 4 engineers. And some of those have, over the course of 7 or 8 years, have come to a kind of commercial phase and things like that. But most of my customers are still R&D, so we're a little bit freakish in that way in terms of screw machines. Everybody likes to set it up and run it for a month, because that's where the easy money is. But when we do some of those big jobs, my mind's going numb. Get to the shop in the morning, I hear the thing ground, but I haven't even had coffee, and I just hear the noise in the shop. But it is pretty rewarding to see a machine that can run overnight. So. Anyhow, the intro, that's it in a nutshell. Accidental machinist. I like for sure I'm going to have to upgrade to thank machinist. I do associate as a machinist or identify as a machinist now.
Good for you. That's a good, to wear both hats, both an engineer and a machinist, that's a rare combination and super valuable. And I can imagine why the engineers that you work with like working with you, and you probably can relate on both sides and talk design for manufacturability really well with them, and obviously make the parts they need.
Yeah, that's really a big part of the value proposition. Is like when they send me something, I'm like, hey, you send me 2 parts and you're going to weld them together. We can make this in one piece. Like, what? How do you do that? I'm like, let's just try it. And so for me as an R&D engineer, I rarely had access to somebody at that kind of front lines that was doing the machining and things. And so I think that's something that definitely makes us stand out.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a classic. The older I get, the better I was. I look at the drawings and the models, and I'm going, I would have never done that. But I'm sure I did. I was probably as bad or worse. But the garbage you get over the fence is sometimes remarkable. But I do the best I can to not berate the engineers and just kind of go along with it and make them look good. So
sure, yeah. Yeah, that's great. So how did you actually learn the machine? Did you watch a bunch of YouTube videos, just consume the manuals, have some actual training?
Yeah, that was a bit of a daunting thing. So in the selection process of picking which type of machine to buy, I decided I was going to buy a new machine so that I'd have factory support. So that was part of my criteria, so I wouldn't be on YouTube. I was like, I don't want to even deal with that. If I got a problem, I want to be able to call somebody. And the Spinetti team that represents the Western United States, I don't know how big their territory is, that represents Citizen, their machines have a great reputation for accuracy and durability, reliability. They're really top notch. I'm sure the other machines can hold their own, but what really stood out was just their level of support, their training and stuff. So I just got a good relationship with those guys, and their texts, phone calls, whatever it took to keep that thing going. They would be willing to visit if that was needed, but I was able to muscle through a lot of really challenging things. And the first year, we were doing some really challenging work. We were rechucking parts. I had a 24-inch part that spit out the back of the machine, a lot of tiny stuff.
Wow.
And so, it's just school of hard knocks, man. We just one after another. And eventually started getting a little more confident. They're like, I think we probably are holding our own and doing all right here. So probably took 3 or 4 years. So I really could kind of hold my chin up and be like, this is what we do and we're good at it. So it took some time. But it was ultimately just really relational with some just top quality veteran seasoned guys. So
that's super cool. And now you know what G code is.
I know what G code is. Yeah. M codes. Yeah. I know a few.
Did you use CAM system for programming?
No, we went a year before we did any CAM stuff. We do have some CAM options now. We don't use it routinely, so we do a lot of hand coding. So even on the milling, doing just a lot of macros and loops and things, and like nested loops and switching. We do some pretty intricate stuff on the programming. So if we're setting something up on a screw machine, we can turn a feature on and turn a feature off with kind of macro variables and things. And so we can make incomplete parts that we can evaluate roughing and finishing and things. And so those are all embedded in the programs. That's really hard to do with a CAM package. So you still can't beat. It's kind of, I don't know, just sort of like something that's factory made versus an artist. So at this point, we take a lot of pride in having really elegant G code, but we do use CAM for complex milling and surfacing and things like that.
Sure. That is impressive, man. Yeah, that is hard stuff to understand. You clearly have a big brain. So that is cool. Yeah. What materials do you specialize in? And maybe just give us a little bit of a snapshot of the shop today.
Yeah. So I'd say our niche really is tiny parts. Our work envelope is commonly like a grain of rice. It's like small. Our work envelopes on machines goes up to 3/4 of an inch. We do a lot of medical stuff. Probably 80 or 90% of our work is medical. So it's those common implant kind of materials. So 6/4 titanium, 3/16 stainless. That's probably about half of our work are in those two materials, 304, and some plastics, specialty plastics, and PEEK and old time and things like that, brass. So we can run anything that can be cut and loaded onto a machine. One thing that's been surprising is some of the super alloys like the MP35N cobalt chrome kind of alloys. They cut great on the screw machine. So we get some work that, a shop's running for a part's running for a customer, and then they want to try that alloy, and they're like, oh, we can't do it. And then they'll call me like, I hear you can work with this stuff. And so I haven't learned why it's so difficult to work with. It seems to behave pretty well on the screw machine. So we do a little bit of that too.
And did you have a favorite brand of tool that you've kind of settled into, or?
Yeah, the Spinetti guys set me up. All of our turning inserts are from Switzerland. Utilus is the brand of all the turning inserts and things. But it took a while. It's boring. We use a different brand. So we're using PH Horn. So you kind of settle in on things.
Yep. Sure.
End mills as long. For small parts, it's unbelievable. Harvey tool, their selection of just weird little radius cutters, and so that's our go-to for something that's not obvious. The first place, that's first stop shop for any end mills or weird profile cutters and stuff is Harvey. So those are some of our favorites.
It is mind-boggling, the vastness of their catalog,
and always in stock. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah,
it's a well-run business.
It is
super cool,
indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a mainstay of many shops. So
yeah,
awesome. And so then you, as we said, you decided to get ProShop pretty early on, like within a few months of opening.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Why that?
Yeah. So I had worked in a medical device company. I'd seen I was our representative for getting ISO 13485 certified. So I understood the systems really well. So the familiarity was there. Not as a design house too. So it was kind of top to bottom, non-conformances and kappas and like all the systems. So I was conversant in all of those things. So, but I just knew I didn't want the burden of just a paper system and the whole mess of it. And then for the unique aspects of kind of quoting work and to be in a job shop and turning things over pretty quickly, and just to have something that would bookend soup to nuts all the way from estimating all the way through invoicing was what I wanted. So I started out, I did some stuff in Visual Basic. I started writing my own. I think I was on track if I had the grit, determination, resolve in a team to write ProShop. So I was writing a database. I did it in Microsoft Access. And so I was learning about referential integrity. And so I know why you have a prefix to all of your customers, the contacts, and kind of the hierarchy of things so that the glue stays intact, right? So you can't have the thing come unraveled. And so I was just doing some work like that. And then there's just got to be a turnkey product. I don't have time to design and build something. So there's got to be something turnkey. And I came across a couple of things and just doing some reviews, and some ideas, some people call a paperless system. So if you take a piece of paper and you scan it, it's a PDF. Technically, it is paperless, but it's not digital and integrated and live and interactive and things. And so I was just really underwhelmed with the other things I had seen. And then I came across ProShop. It had several good reviews, and I think you were on the ball. You were pretty new at it then, and I'm sure you were fielding the things, but very responsive. When I sent out an inquiry, I got a response. And so I could tell you guys were hungry and believed that you had something special and you were hungry to prove it. And so I was like, well, let me take a look. And I looked at it. I was like, this actually makes a ton of sense. And we had paper travelers at the time. I'd only done probably 100 jobs or fewer. But if I lost one, I wouldn't be able to prove that it shipped and invoice it. So it was sort of terrifying walking around with these oily pieces of paper and hoping I didn't lose one when my bookkeeper came in on Thursday, to see what we were going to invoice for the week. It was really unnerving. So yeah, that was an easy and totally no-brainer of a decision. And it was a game changer. Honestly, I think at this point, without ProShop, throughout that whole term, we would have had to have at least like one full-time employee just chasing stuff around and keeping track and filing. But now I've got a remote bookkeeper that works out of office, can do a query to figure out what shipped and was ready to invoice. So one button click and just everything's there. And so when paying invoices, I just say, well, look, if we ordered it and there's a packing slip and we received it, just pay the invoice and don't bug me. And so we've been able just to make everything systematic and just turnkey. And it's really impressive. So kudos to the ProShop team for the product you guys designed. And then similar to the Spinetti guys, you guys stand out in customer service too. And those, that first year when we were onboarding, thankfully I don't check in too much anymore with the customer service team. But on those occasions when I need to, you get somebody with just a good attitude, a spirited person that wants to help, and gets it done. I get answers right away to those little hiccups we have periodically. And the software's so good, thankfully, at this point, and with our proficiency coming up and understanding it, rarely need to do that anymore. So.
I love that. It's music to my ears. Thank you. Yeah, we were hungry at that time. I was the sales team, and marketing department. I was all of it. And you were client number 33.
There you go.
We still have almost all of those ones that started before you. But yeah, very early on, we had opened our doors less than 2 years prior to when you signed up. But we do pride ourselves on and to this day, sometimes my desire to be responsive almost like hinders getting stuff done. I'm like, oh, I got to answer this person. I got to answer that person. I got to do this or that. But I think it's a good principle and overall.
Absolutely.
And I imagine that is probably the fact that you value that, I imagine that's something you bring to your own business, right? You probably just that if that resonates with you, you're like, yeah, this is how I want to serve my customers too.
The bottom line, you need to make money. Otherwise, you can't sustain and do what you're doing. But for me, there's jobs we just get ruined on. We do so much R&D. You can't predict all the things that are going to happen. Expensive tools break and, there's just a lot of things that go sideways. But I still, when I get the job done, it's like, we're going to keep doing it until it's right, until I can hold it up. We package things in these little glass vials. I hold it up and I look under there, make sure there's no lint in there. I'm like, that is awesome. So I still, as long as I can get to the end of a job and feel like that is awesome, and hopefully make money more often than not. But as long as that's still there. So in terms of keeping your eye on the ball, I think the passion for your craft and just like be true to your heart and your soul and just be like, that's why I'm doing this. And like, obviously, if you don't make money, you can't keep doing it. But yeah, I could be more efficient. I could probably make more money. And similar to you can probably keep your eye on some other trajectory and irritate your staff and your customers along the way and make more money. But long term and even short term, that's not gonna get it done.
Yeah. So you said glass vials. Tell us a little bit about. I've never heard of glass vials as packaging materials.
Our parts are tiny. So like I had one with this tiny little rivet. We had 20,000 of them. It's like the size of your pinky finger. It's like a little glass vial with a cap. And it's just so shiny. It looks like jewelry or something. All these shiny little parts in there. So we joke they're so expensive. If you put 10,000 parts in, or 1,000 parts or 500 expensive parts in a little jar, it's like I don't want a Ziploc bag. I wanted something with a little bit of bling. So yeah. So I'd say about 2/3 of our parts we put them in, and then we joke that they're worth more than crack cocaine. So we call them crack vials. When you get a full one, it's a crack vial. I haven't verified to see that that's true. So sorry if that's a little crass for some people, but
that's awesome.
We jokingly call them crack vials when they're full. So So, in hopes that the street value is higher than cocaine. So.
It probably is. I wouldn't know myself either, thankfully, but
that's our story. And we're sticking to it.
That is too funny. That is too funny. Wow.
Yeah.
So that was interesting and I didn't think I realized that you had started coding your own system at the beginning, because that's not an uncommon story. There's lots of shops that reach out to us that have done that, but usually they did it and then stuck with it and then realized years later it's way too much work to maintain it, or the person that wrote it is retiring, or they left and now they don't know what to do with it. And it's a very tenuous, risky situation.
It is. Yeah. I think thankfully I had a moment of wisdom. I didn't enjoy it, I think was ultimately what it was. If I did, I probably would have stuck with it. But like, no, this is in the way and interfering with me cutting parts, what I want to be doing, So it was just an extra obstacle. And finally, I just, in a moment of, I just like, there has to be a better way. Somebody else has done this. And I did come across stories of people who had started it and couldn't finish it, or tried to pass on the business and it didn't work. So I wanted something that was turnkey, scalable, and professional. And so for me, part of our shop tour is, we end with ProShop. I walk around the shop. Here's our bar stock and material. Here's a machine. Here's the quality lab. And then I sit them down and here's how we manage your jobs. And so I'll walk them through ProShop. If you call me and say, hey, where's my parts? I can click on a packing slip, and second click, we attach the links to the tracking on the packing slip in there. So literally I could be 2 or 3 clicks away from any question the customer has. If they're, where's my parts? What tool did you use to cut this? The ream holes off. I can trace it back to the tool that was mounted on that machine in 2 or 3 clicks. So it was pretty obvious that it was the right solution when I had first seen it, and not at all disappointed.
So and I remember this now, that you are pretty deep into the cutting tool module, and you're making sure even these prototype jobs are fully documented, know which tools you're using and where in the machine and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have them mounted if we're using a radius comp or not. So all of that information is embedded on those sequence details. And so we print that and stick it on the machine as a reference copy. If we make a change, we grab a red pen and we note it, and we're monkeying around. And then we have a rigorous teardown procedure to make sure that we leave things in ProShop in an orderly fashion. It took us honestly years to get there. I was just losing my mind. I'd be like, oh, great, we got a repeat job. Finally, no programming. We know how to do this. We know how to bake the cookies. We got the recipe. Like, oh, we didn't leave it updated. We didn't download the program off the machine. So now I'd say for 2 years there, that was a really high order. I'm like, priority number 1, make the parts well. Priority number 2, put the job away so that if we get it again, we can make them well. So,
yeah, that's an important one. And so you don't do a lot of repeat work, it sounds like.
I'd say 10, 20%. Yeah, just with the maturity of some of our customers. I'm making this up, these numbers, but I would say in the startup arena, medical device companies, 1 in 7 or something like that are going to make it. 1 in 10 to commercial, something like that. I don't know what the number would be. So over the course of time, if we have, enough customers and enough years behind us, sooner or later, a few of these will start hitting. So, but so we're getting probably 20% of our work's repeat work now, which is good. It's nice. I don't know what the sweet spot for me personally would be. For the shop, 100% would probably be the easy one.
Of course.
But for me, it's just sort of mind numbing, and like my staff too. Like we just like a challenge, and so almost to a fault.
Yeah. How have you found those team members, those folks? You have about 5 or so, you said, right now?
Yeah, we're down to 3 now. Yeah, we are lean and mean. Yeah, so the first
5
guy,
machines.
plus an EDM and a mill. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we do some wire EDM work too. So we're probably a little more lean than we could be right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the first guy, I found him at the JC locally here in Santa Rosa. He was in the machining program, and I called up the professor and said, hey, you got any students who want to learn something? He was my first employee hired. Actually, that's how I found him. And just a really sharp guy. And so that was only 6 months in or something like that. So he's a more experienced programmer and operator and setup machinist than I am at this point. So it's really, really valuable. But that is something in this season I kind of have a passion for, is just passing along those skills now that I've done it long enough and feel comfortable with where I am, and just to find some young guys or girls that want to learn something and be really skilled at something and be proud of their work. And, it's like, it's rewarding. And so that's something that I've kind of changed. And then, my programmer, basically the reason we downsized, was just like the longer we were at it, the harder the work got. It was crazy. Like the stuff we were doing 3 or 4 years in, I couldn't even have done it when we, 1 or 2 years in. And I was getting frustrated by it. It's hard to hand that work off to kind of some entry level machinists and things. And so, but he remarked, and there's a lot of wisdom in it. He said, if it were easy, we wouldn't get it. So our reputation was, you send it to the guy next door or to your uncle or your grandpa or whoever, and they make parts. And if they can't, they don't have the machines or the skill. And so once our reputation became that we'll do the nasty, hard, no quote work, we just got more and more of it. So I just basically embraced it and said, all right. And so instead of building a fleet and an army, we're going to do a Navy SEAL squad, and we're going to be small, and we're going to have some really kind of highly skilled people and not do much commodity work. Right. And enjoy it. And so that's when we kind of downsized a little bit to embrace that. And then we have more capacity than we can keep running most weeks, but that also allows us to do expedites and to do small jobs, which is really freakish for a screw machine shop. So
yeah, that can be lucrative too.
Yeah.
Time
top dollar work and stuff too. So we're like, well, that didn't sound too bad.
So when you bring these customers through and show them the systems and then end up in ProShop, what's the feedback you get?
Oh, they're like, would it work for my shop?
Okay.
They're manufacturing medical devices or something, and they're like, oh, I wish ours would do that. Like, oh, that would be so nice. It's obvious. Anybody who works with any kind of operational system and paradigm and stuff will recognize pretty quickly how powerful it is when your whole team can have access to things like, what's our FedEx password? I'm like, well, log into the FedEx contact, look on there, and that's where we keep the login credentials for it. So just to have a centralized database that's live and updated at all times and accessible, it's like, it's really powerful. It's the way it should be. And it works.
And remind me, do you hold certifications?
Yeah. So certifications, we are ISO 13485 compliant, but no, we haven't pursued certifications. And it's like we keep meaning to, and we keep planning on it, but I don't lose much work. I get grandfathered into some systems based on a couple of things. My reputation, because I've worked in the field for a long time, and I know a lot of my customers, especially early on, I did. And then also they'll see a ProShop and they see our systems are really robust. It's like, and so so we get kind of grandfathered in and work around it, but we use the systems. In terms of documenting all of our work and inspections. We don't always document all the inspections and use that module completely because we do a lot of R&D work and we're moving fast and things. But when we have a job set up and it needs it, so I've sent control charts to a customer that said, oh, this feature right here, it felt a little tight or something on our device. And I can pull up inspection data. It's kind of blows their mind a little bit to see that I have a control chart for a variable that they're concerned about. And like, no, we were looking closely at it, and we know where it was running.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That is super cool. I imagine that instills confidence in them that
completely.
And I can see why that if you don't need to get certification, you're keeping your spindles as busy as you like them to be, and good reputation and the kind of work that you want. That's the end all be all.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and we produce the quality manual in a PDF format during these desktop audits when they're qualifying us and stuff, so they can see the rigor in the system. They see what we're that it's it is a compliant system. It's complete. It's rigorous. It's thorough, traceable. It's all the things it needs to be.
So a lot of the questions that we often go through on this show are about the before and after, but you didn't really have much of a before. Like it's just like ProShop from early on.
Yeah.
So it's what's it been like to just grow with it over the years? I imagine you didn't keep. I mean, you didn't. It's such a vast system. You can't possibly start with using all of it. So, how have you kind of grown into different modules or different features and, like the cutting tools? Did you start doing that really, really early on, or did that something you adopted a little later?
Yeah, I'd say that was probably one of the first things we did. So the first two modules we brought on almost immediately were so we just needed to be able to queue work when we had the work. And so I started doing my estimates and quotes through ProShop right out of the gate. So that was kind of tier one. and then we would enter a work order. And so now you've got the job on the floor and everybody has visibility that it's there and it needs to ship by a date. And then from there, we just looked at, okay, what in that job would be really helpful? So queuing, we need traceability for raw materials. We're really super meticulous with that. And so that became kind of another first tier thing right out of the gate. Like, okay, now we once and for all have answered traceability. For 5 years down the road, I'm 2 clicks away from this material cert on any job we've run, which is incredible and reassuring to me and to our customers. And so on the work order, having material traceability and then the ability to generate a packing slip and ship it and demonstrate that you did it was kind of another first tier thing. And honestly, the tools, so leaving a record of like, how did you build the part? You know, what is your sequence of operations and which tools do you use? So that was probably the last of that first tier. So we kind of, I guess we were utilizing probably a third of the modules kind of right out of the gate.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
So I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong here, that in your background in, medical devices that get implanted and need that sort of 1345 level of quality and process control, that had to inform your decision to start with all that stuff at the very beginning, because you're doing R&D and they're like, hey, what did you do here and there, and validate that nothing changed or whatever. That must have been a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was more that it would have the legs that I could do a first job, an R&D thing, where maybe they did or didn't care too much about that, but I would have a trajectory path that not only is it like scalable for more employees and volume and things like that, but it's also scalable through the life cycle of a product or a component. And so, yeah, it was a prototype and like with no inspection data, whatever. We made 5 of them, and they're like, okay, yeah, let's make it bigger, let's make it smaller. But I can quickly let that evolve into a very rigorous, traceable program and things. So it's already embedded in there. It's ready. And so it's just a matter of maturing parts through their development phase. So that's something that's really easy for us to do. It's not disruptive. And so even if we're not using all the features and the inspection data and part check info, and maybe we didn't record the tools, that the second time we run it, we're like, okay, let's button this down. Let's get all this stuff in there and things. So we already have the framework and the architecture to accommodate it. And so it's super flexible. You don't have to check every box, like a credit card transaction online. Well, if you didn't fill this in, you're going to be here for 5 hours trying to figure it out. They're like, it'll be like, hey, by the way, you skipped something. Are you okay with that? And I'm like, yes, I am. And so I'd say it's, very capable but very flexible. So it'll warn you if you're going cowboy mode, which we do a lot, but it won't stop you. It's just kind of like, okay, there's always a couple of ways to get it a solution and things. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is definitely something that sometimes people have concerns or reservations about when they're first learning about it. They're like, holy cow, this can do so much. It's going to force us to do all these things. And it's like, no, you only have to do as much as you want to do.
Yeah.
Like you can do it super quick and efficient, or you can do it absolutely, just every detail fully documented and anywhere in between, and you can decide.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely have some shops that are like almost exclusively prototype shops. They're always doing quick turns, onesie twosie. And we have others that run, almost 95% repeat production all the time, very dialed in, very process driven. And it works in both cases. So
yeah. I remember in the training phase, there's like, all right, how do you go from start to finish? And like, well, you can start with an estimate and turn it into a part, and it just kind of unravels. Like, all right. And then there's other times when, well, I have a part. It's like, oh, you can make an estimate out of the part. I'm like, what? You can go backwards? Like, yeah. Like, which one should I do? I'm like, whichever one works best for your workflow. So it was sort of a weird paradigm that like, you don't have to march it in a straight line. It's just like, no,
right.
Just it's a tool and it's really powerful and capable. And once you learn a couple of the basic premises on how it works, you're flying.
Do you remember who your trainer was?
Yes, Luke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was either going to be Luke or Brian or Kelsey, maybe.
Yeah.
But we really only had 3 people.
Is Luke still with you?
Oh yeah. He's the.
Give him a hug. Give him a hug for me. We both owe him one, I'm sure.
He's an incredible guy.
Yeah. I really enjoyed working with him. Yeah.
He has trained so many customers, and he has so much wisdom and just the approach he takes.
And so much patience. because
Yes.
I was under the gun. I was drinking like 4 or 5 cups of coffee, and I'm like twitching during training sessions and yelling and, come on, how do you do this? This is ridiculous. He's like, he was so patient with me. Yeah.
I will absolutely give him a hug from
I'll
you.
be forever grateful. So, yeah.
We gotta have you meet him someday in person. Did he ever come on site with you?
No, and I remember learning in the vicinity where he lived, and I mountain bike, and that.
Oh yeah,
it was in some destination mountain bike kind of country. So I did toy with the idea of getting up there. It's still on my I might do list. So.
Galbraith Mountain is absolutely a destination place right here in Bellingham, and he's just a couple of miles south of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. Well, maybe you make it up sometime. We'll take you out to dinner, go mountain biking, and hang out. So do you remember maybe through the training process, or even once you started sort of getting up to speed, where in like realizing that there was a feature that maybe you didn't even know about in the sales and demo process, and you're like, holy smokes, like that's gonna be such a time saver?
Let's see. Yeah, nothing along those lines is totally jumping out. I think one thing, just categorically, just the rigor. I probably, like a lot of your customers, like, well, does it have these 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 features or something? Can I use it for that? I think in my case, I don't know that I'd ever been in a professional machine shop. And so for me, what I was looking for was just, I don't know how this is actually supposed to work. I kind of tinkered in the back of a little engineer's machine shop in the back of a shop, but and we've done some manufacturing. So I had some ideas of work orders or travelers and kind of how to trace a job. And I'd written process instructions. So I had some ideas on that, but not as a machine shop and things. I'm like, I wonder how a shop would do it. And so it's interesting. To this day, I've still only stepped foot in a couple.
Really?
But I feel like people will come in, and we've got we can maybe talk our last screw machine we'll talk about a little bit later that has garnered some interest, and some people come and tour the shop and things. And so I've got people come in and they're impressed, like, yeah, your shop looks good, and I show them how we run things, and it's just like, so we were able to fake it till you make it. We didn't really even have to fake it. We just have to do what you told us. And so ProShop really created that architecture to kind of, our quotes look right, they look professional and finished, and they're easy to find and track, and our pricing stuff makes sense, and traceability. So it's like, so I don't know that there's necessarily a feature, because I didn't know what I was looking for. I was looking to act like a machine shop, and it worked. So
that's amazing that you had never even stepped foot into one prior to buying your first machine. So yeah, that says a lot. That says a lot about your your willingness to get out there and comfortable and do it, make it happen.
Yeah, that's why I'm on the phone with you right now. Also, like, this makes me uncomfortable. Maybe I should do it anyway.
Yeah. You said something interesting that is actually comes up and sort of in some of my questions a little bit, but we think of ProShop as an operating system for how to run an effective machine shop, right? As opposed to most ERPs that, they do some certain things, and they have screens and modules, but I've never, really used another one personally myself in any kind of depth. But what I've been told by people is they're not really as prescriptive and sort of structured in, like, this is the flow of how to do best practices from the very beginning of estimating to shipping and invoicing and pretty much everything in between. And so the fact that you had no real experience, so I imagine as you were training with Luke, you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, that this is logical flow of like what you would do here, and at this stage do this, and then this other thing. And you said the word architecture, and I guess I'm glad that we could provide a little bit of that framework of like, this is how you run a professional shop, and you felt like that let you do that almost pretty much out of the gate. Yeah,
and I went to IMTS 2017, 2018, anyway, right around that time. So I was like, oh, this would be a good chance. I mean, honestly, it's just like a playground for anybody who has interest in this whole arena. So that was pretty mind blowing. But I was looking at screw machines, trying to narrow it down to the, from a handful of brands for the ones we finally selected. But I took that time too to meet with you guys, and some competitors and stuff. And I had a little bit of exposure to it. I don't know if I was already down the training path, but in terms of it, yeah, being an operating system, like it's operational, functional. It's like it's integrated into the business. It's not like somebody keeping track with a clipboard or something, leaving records. The other systems I felt like would leave a record of the transactions you had executed to process a job. But I didn't feel like they were facilitating executing the job in terms of getting the tools in inventory, know that they're there, know your raw materials there, that the job's actually ready to run, and then you run it and it leaves a record of it. And the things like outside processing and to be able to anodize and coat and heat treat and things like that we don't do in house. And I remember the first few times we had to do like, oh, this is going to be a pain. Click a little thing. There's a drop down. It says external processing, and all of a sudden it says assign PO. I'm like, oh, click that. Let's do it out. Well, there we go. Now I have a packing slip and a purchase order to go get something, processed, heat treated, or anodized or something. It's like, so I think that's the extent that it's actually an operational system that's actually executing, helping you execute your job. And so I think that's the difference. Another one that I saw is just like, it's like it would leave a record and it would be useful, but it wouldn't really be all that helpful. You guys really stood out in that regard.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. That's an interesting way to think about it. So let's talk back more, just a little bit of the journey of the shop. So you're now, maybe it's a good time you have five screw machines, a wire EDM, and a mill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I imagine, most of those were driven by just the demand of the types of parts you were getting RFQs for, and like where you saw the opportunity to grow, and maybe explain a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's definitely how it unfolded. And having one machine, a complex machine doing hard work, and you break a tool and you have to let it sit because you're waiting for an end mill that you broke. So it became really apparent if I was going to be serious about this, I needed to get a second machine. So I knew at that point what my parts were kind of looking like. And so I went to a smaller work envelope machine, the Citizen L20, so a 1/2-inch diameter bar for the work envelope. And so and having that more compact work envelope, you're less susceptible to some of the heat effects and thermal effects. Just a smaller casting is going to swell less and expand less and so I really love that platform, and it's really capable, a lot of workstations and things. And so that one just gave us a little bit of redundancy and some extra capacity. And then I alternated. I got another L20, and then I got another L12. The third L12 was really driven by a customer. We were getting kind of busy, and they were really demanding, had a kind of a fleet of engineers. And they're like, well, what would it take to get just kind of a rolling expedite, this standard expedite on the floor? I'm like, you guys just need a machine if you got capacity. And so basically I worked with them to have a machine installed. They agreed to keep it busy for 1 year. And so cool. I got that one, and it was a dedicated customer machine. And that worked great because it really didn't sit. That thing was cranking. And so they just agreed to a certain level of volume for a year. And so that was my third machine. It was, at that point I had the other ones, I guess my fourth one. So I had 3 machines to kind of operate the rest of my customer base. And then they got that fourth one. And that was about the ratio too. They were at that point about a third of my total volume. So they were taking some capacity from the other machines as well. So that got us up to 4 screw machines. And then we were, doing a lot of really complex work. And Citizen came out with the first ever screw machine that has an automatic tool changer. So it has a 12 tool turret for milling. And so it's got a live B-axis. Wow. So we can do simultaneous 5-axis machining and with a 12 turret tool changer on it. So that was kind of a first in kind. I heard that we had the second one in North America and the first one west of the Mississippi. So we like to say we're on the cutting edge of cutting with that one. So but that's been really it's kind of a love-hate thing. The jobs that require that machine. So we don't know if we hate the jobs or if we hate the machine. And it took us a while to realize part of it's getting to know it, and part of it the stuff that ends up on that machine can't be done on a screw machine that's only got 8 or 10 7 milling stations. No, now we have 12 from the face, 12 from the cross and along the B-axis, and then as well as the back working another 4. So we end up doing some really pretty heinous kind of work on that machine. But it's the fun stuff too. It's the one that makes you grin and you put it and be like, that was awesome. But you don't want to look back and check to see if you made any money on the first time you run those.
Sure. My brain hurts just imagining all the axes and how to even program that, let alone with macros or by hand. holy smokes.
Yeah.
But I imagine those parts are the ones you put in your showcase and your display, and you're like, yeah, this is what we are capable of.
Yeah, if we had a gallery on a website, we'd put those parts on it. So, but we're still under construction on the website. So.
Well, the fact that you can keep all that busy even without that just is a testament to how much your customers are, loving what you're providing to them. So, but yeah, maybe I would love to see some pictures, even if you just text them to me.
Yeah.
Because
I'll add you to the list.
I love cool machine parts.
Yeah.
What are some of the most just memorable experiences of owning your shop over the last 7-8 years?
Yeah, I mean, I'd start with week one. I remember, and I don't even know if the screw machine had hit the floor. I think it had at this point. So I had one workbench and one screw machine and an empty office with a desk. I mean, it was like an echo chamber in here. I distinctly remember coming in and just sort of the excitement. I pulled up the roll-up door. We have pretty nice weather in Sonoma County. Let some light, some air in, and just thinking like, what am I going to do today? Or like what's in store? Just that sense of just pure adventure. And then over the course of owning my shop, it's been a lot of work. It's one of those things, if you knew what it was at this point, I probably wouldn't do it again if I knew how much work it was. But it's like no regrets. Everything I do because I think it is the best for the business, best for me, best for my customer. I never have to have the sensation that I'm doing it. It's because some Dilbert boss told me I had to be some dumb task or something meaningless and stuff. So I'd say categorically over the tenure of having my own shop, that's just something I've just really have enjoyed, that freedom of just feeling like I'm working hard, but it's because I believe in the work. And so I say categorically that's been a big one. And then just being proud of the work we can do. And it's funny, you make money on some jobs, you don't on others. But honestly, it's so funny. I shouldn't let all my customers know, but it's the pat on the back when somebody says thank you, that was amazing, or anything. Man, it just washes away like whatever troubles and annoyances and money I lost and anything. Yeah, you're right. It was. That turned out great, didn't it? And so that's just been a constant theme of just being proud of the work. So.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's what it's about. I often talk about this being one of the hardest, if not the hardest business in the world, right? It takes so much technical complexity to make these parts. And it sounds like the level that you're doing at is just sort of next level. And it's not always lucrative. There's a million details you got to get right to even like have the part come together and ship on time and, potentially hopefully make a margin on it. But incredibly rewarding when it's when you have those parts, when you please that customer, when they're super happy, and that very few people could have pulled off what you did. Like you're in sort of rare company that you can do this.
Yeah, I came across a proverb somewhere, something along the lines of those who are skilled in their craft will be sought by kings. So this idea that like you'll always be of some value, economy, AI, like COVID, like all these things that can happen. But if you just are passionate about and skilled at your craft, whatever it is, it could be machining, it can be other things, but there's inherent reward in it and joy in it, just doing it. But also it's like things are going to work out for you too. And so that's sort of in this kind of next transition, just thinking about it like from a legacy standpoint, and that maybe just bring on some more young people to kind of train and to be skilled at and enjoy that, provide for themselves, provide for their family, and provide, contribute in a meaningful way to our society,
Mm-hmm. So what's been harder for you, the technical aspect of learning machining or the learning how to run a business?
Oh, yeah, I'd say probably those I just came upon with like failure's not an option. So for the first 3 years, I was going to do whatever it takes to get both of those to work. So I think the hardest part is how do you maintain your health and your relationships with your family and spouse and all of those things. So that's hands down. That's the hard part. It's just to try to remember that, for a season you can do that, but in the long haul, if you're harming your health or your relationships, then it doesn't make any sense at all. So just over the last few years, trying to just get a little more normalcy and priority around those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you see, I mean, I lived that myself and had times where I know I was over-indexing too much on working hard and trying to keep the business afloat. And But yeah, it's an important thing to remember. So I'm glad you said that work-life balance, that family. It's like, because that's what you're doing it for, right? You're doing it to support the family and do something meaningful and leave a legacy. And if it just killed you along the way, what's the point?
Yeah. Kind of that fear of regret. What might you regret when this is behind it? You got to be mindful of that all the time.
No kidding. I'm curious, just last question maybe here. What would you think your shop would be looking like today if you had not pulled the trigger on ProShop? You said you'd probably have at least one person full time just doing clerical things, but anything beyond that?
Oh, I think just sort of, instead of like proud of instead of having a helper, I would just have another job, to keeping track of all that stuff now. And that's honestly, I think that's the difference, is I've got an operational executive assistant that's available, at all times, 24/7 to kind of help. Where is this? And for me, I don't know, I live in chaos a little bit, and I push hard, and I leave kind of a wake of disaster sometimes. And so it inherently is cleaned up for you as you go, and it's just like, I don't lose things. Documents, purchase orders, quotes, invoices, that stuff is just 100% like buttoned down the hatch. We're still sailing in the storms, waves breaking over the top, but at least that hatch is closed and it's tight. Our records are good and clean. So yeah, I don't know what it'd look like. I would just be constant. It'd be like having a thorn in my side all the time, trying to help keep that stuff in order. So
sure. Well, I'm glad we're able to keep that thorn out of your side and help you maybe strike a little more work-life balance, be more present with your family, and still have the business going and know its confidence. And I appreciate you taking an early bet on us when we were still a tiny little company as well.
Yeah, absolutely no regrets. Yeah, it's been a pleasure growing with you guys and seeing you out in front of us and helping me look good. So appreciate all you guys. So.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I'll definitely share those with the team and with Luke in particular. So if people want to reach out and learn how to, buy parts from you in little crack vial glasses, how would you recommend they reach out?
Yeah, just start the website. It's under construction, but it's like a static business card. So Lane4 Precision, and you'll find an email address and a phone number there. So that'd be a good safe spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the Lane with a number 4.
Lane, the number 4. Oh, we didn't talk about that. You want to end on that? Why Lane4 Precision?
Sure.
So So that inspired by the Olympics. That's the qualifying lanes for like the sprinters and swimmers. And so it's that kind of the middle lane. Lane 4 is the qualifying lane. So they try to, I guess, inspired by those Olympics, those elite athletes, their training, their rigor, and just high performance, and speed matters.
That is super cool. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for volunteering that. That is super duper cool.
Yeah.
I did not know. That's a great reason. Yeah, it's some company names are super inspired to have a great idea, and some are just, Bob's Machine Shop or, Grove Machine Shop because they live in Grove City.
Yeah.
But that is an awesome story.
Yeah.
Well, very good, Dan. Well, thank you again for being on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Discomfort to come out. It was a great conversation. I know people will enjoy listening to it, and a lot of them will relate a ton to the experience you've had because they're going through it themselves right now. So
yeah,
appreciate you sharing today.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, thanks, Paul.
Cheers, Dan.